And we are live. So just doing another Q&A about more questions I found on Reddit. Again, this is going to be tailored towards beginners and intermediates. So let us get started. If you have any questions, leave them in the chat and I can get to them after when I see them. So the first question I saw is about, is recomping worth it or is it pretty much both? You've been consistently, no, you've been inconsistently lifting for about 6 years, and the stats: you're 5'9", 190 pounds, and 21.5% body fat, 405 deadlift, 315 squat, 285 bench. You feel like you could get too fat and want to get leaner, but you don't want to get smaller, and you don't want to negatively impact future gains. You don't know if you should eat at maintenance or keep training, eat at a surplus or eat at a deficit, and you're a beginner. Well, from my current stats, I'm about a little bit shorter than you, but I'm 177 pounds. So you are a little bit chubbier than me. And what I can say is that you can keep eating at what you're doing right now and just keep training harder. I think what you will find the most bang for your buck is if you start training more consistently, you start taking training a little bit more with more dedication, as in you whatever program you choose, whether it's 3, 4, or 5 times a week, you stick to that. You clean up your diet a little bit, and then you should see that your body will follow suit. I think what you see right now is a result of your inconsistency, and as a result, your body reacts accordingly. So if you're inconsistent, you'll get this inconsistent body composition or physique that you might not want. As for negatively impacting your future gains, yes, if you're cutting consistently, you will see less progress. But at your stage as a beginner and not being consistent, you're going to pretty much make progress with anything you're doing. And I think that w- with that knowledge, just know that picking something that you're interested in and sticking to it will just fix everything. So don't worry about the small stuff and just keep training hard. Just looking at the chat, see if there's any questions. Okay. Second question: should I switch a program if you feel that the current program is boring and you're an intermediate? And to answer that question, I think that you should. It depends on your training style. So like if you have like training ADHD and you constantly need some stimulus, maybe find something that has more volume or it fits your goals. There's just tons, thousands of programs out there. And just because the thing you're doing right now is boring doesn't mean that there isn't something out there that can benefit you. Maybe you outgrown the program, or maybe you're just frustrated with the progress. I don't know your situation, but to say that your current program is boring just tells me that right now you're either advancing past that level or you're not making enough progress, which is also pretty frustrating. So this requires some self-reflection on your end and just seeing if your program is fit for you at the intermediate stage. And at that stage, it's pretty frustrating a lot of times because you're trying to break your beginner plateaus and your intermediate plateaus because that's why you transitioned. That's how you became an intermediate because you got a little stronger. And you might be in that stage where some some of the stuff you've been doing in the past isn't working anymore. And because you haven't been training for a long time, you don't know what else to turn to. So, but you've heard from a lot of advanced and elite lifters to just stick to the basics, stick to your programming. But coming from reflecting on the intermediate stage, still feel like I'm currently in. Uh, that advice isn't really made for tailored for everyone. It's has a good purpose in that you shouldn't be constantly switching up whatever you were doing just because, oh, it doesn't work and you only gave it like 3 months or a couple of weeks even. No, no, you should definitely identify and be analyzing and do some self-reflection on what's been working, what hasn't been working, what programs have in similar that you chose, and if it's making you progress and you feel strong and you see the numbers translate uh, after a couple weeks, after a couple months, after each block or cycle, then you know that's what you should be doing, and you should continue training that way until it doesn't work for you, and then you'll be slowly figuring out by that time newer ways or weaknesses that you can work on, and other things that might, when you combine these different factors together, might have produce a different output, different result. So just things to keep in mind when you feel like your current program is boring. It's not just one short answer. So this is another intermediate. You're starting Broomley's Bull Mastoff program next week. Haven't heard of it, to be honest. Wondering if you should split the developmental variation from the main. Bench press on bench day, close grip on overhead press. You read that base strength and peak strength, and in base strength he keeps them in the same day, but peak strength he keeps them on the opposite days. You don't know what that means. You'll see great gains, but I want to know if anyone experimented with this or have thoughts. Your goal is mass right now. Stress is less important to a degree. Well, seeing this question and you're an intermediate, I'm assuming you're intermediate by the amount of years you're training, because if you have intermediate strength and you're focusing on mass, that might be a weird way to put it, but yeah. So after a couple years, you would consider yourself an intermediate, and have you experimented with this? Yeah, you can pretty much make any mass gains with practically any program, as long as, for me, as long as the rep ranges were in that above 8, that 8 to 12, 8 to 15, maybe 10 to 15. I just make I just need to focus on getting enough calories in, and I grew. So it doesn't matter what program I'm on. And for the last question, it's for the beginner. Last week you're on GZ CLP for general strength. Worked well so far. You want to milk linear progression as long as possible, and you're thinking about running and Sons, another beginner program. Any suggestions or other programs are better in your opinion? No, they all are pretty much the same. Maybe some has more accessories than others. I ran starting strength, Grayskull LP. I ran Mad Cow for a little bit. They all have 3x5 or 5x5. Just and that was pretty much, and I was already satisfied with getting stronger with just the main movements. So as long as they just include that main volume block, and if you have extra accessories you can add as plugins, you can find a program for that. But in other words, yeah, linear progression, it's just linear progression. Okay, just looking at the chat again. All right, so that's it for these questions on the subreddit. So I'll talk to you guys next time.